say we were going to take the top. What is the top? X to the fifth is x times x times x times x times x. Like that, 5 x's divided by 3 x's. X times x times x. Okay? And you remember what we said about fractions a long time ago when we first learned fractions with numbers, is that anything common to the top and anything common to the bottom you could kind of erase. Okay? And in this case, I've got 3 x's multiplied together here, and I could cancel them out with 3 of these x's here, because I'm taking this and I'm multiplying it by 3, x cubed basically, but then I'm going to turn around and divide that by x cubed. So it's like taking 10 and multiplying it by 3 and then dividing it by 3. Well, the 3's don't matter because I multiplied by 3 and then I turn right around and I divided by 3. Here, I'm taking these 2 x's, x squared, I'm multiplying by 3 x's, and then I turn around and I divide by 3 x's. So these x's don't even matter. And that's why you can simplify this, and these 2 x's are left over, and it gives you x squared. Okay? So anytime you have exponents common to the top and the bottom, you can eliminate what's common. And the way you do that in the shorthand is, all you do is you take the difference in the exponents, and that gives you a 2. Okay? And let me just show you real briefly something that's going to kind of blow your mind a little bit. What if we have it in the reverse way? What if instead of this, we had x to the third over x to the fifth? Okay? We do it the exact same way, okay? Except, we cancel the x to the third and we cancel the other x's there, and we subtract them. It's just that now the x to the squared goes on the bottom, okay? Because the bigger number's on the bottom. So that's how you do it. And another way of doing that, let me just show you one more thing kind of while we're at it. That's kind of hard to remember sometimes, but if you can remember this, all you do is you always take the top minus the bottom. 3 minus 5 is -2, so that's x to the -2. Okay, what the heck does x to the -2 means? Let me show you another little trick. Anytime you have a negative exponent, and we're going to learn this later in the course, anytime you have a negative exponent, it's the same as 1 over the positive of the exponent. Okay, and if you recall, that's the exact same answer I told you about. We can cancel these 3 x's, we cancel the 3 x's on the bottom, and so we have a 1 on the top and we have an x squared on the bottom. Okay, let's move on. I don't want to beat these 2 examples too far into the ground because we're going to do so many examples here right now, and I think we're going to get it real clear. I just wanted to kind of introduce those concepts. Let's say we had something like y to the third times y to the fourth over y times y squared. We want to simplify that. Well, let's go ahead and simplify the top. Y to the third times y to the fourth is simply y to the seventh, because 3 plus 4 is 7. And on the bottom, I've got y to the third, because 2 plus 1 is 3. Now, I've got this, and I want to simplify it. The answer is going to be y. 7 minus 3 gives me 4, is y to the fourth. Okay? And notice the bigger exponent's on the top, and the smaller exponent's on the bottom, so I'm left with that. Okay? So all you do is you subtract the top minus the bottom, and you put it there. If you end up subtracting the top and the bottom and you get a negative number, well, then you just put that on the bottom. So let's continue with more examples. Let's say we had 12a squared a to the third a to the fourth over 4 parentheses a to the fourth all squared. Well, the top is easy. It's 12, and I just add these exponents up. 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 plus 4 is 9, so 2a to the 9th over. And then I've got a 4, and then I've got a to the 4th power raised to the 2nd power, which is a, and then 4 times 2 is 8. Okay? Now, 12 divided by 4 is 3, so I can just write a 3 out there. I can get rid of these numbers. And likewise, I've got an a to the 9th and an a to the 8th. And the way to simplify that, 9 minus 8 is 1, so I've got a to the 1, which is implied there, so it's just 3a. Another way to think about this simplification we're doing here is, I've got something common on the top and something common on the bottom. So I can divide both sides. Remember, any fraction, you can do anything you want to the top and the bottom as long as you do it to both sides. So if I divide the bottom by a to the 8th, I get 1. And if I divide the top by a to the 8th, I've got the 9 minus 8 gives me the 1. So that stay there. But the easiest way to remember it is just when you have something common like this, you just subtract them and you put the number there. Okay? And like I say, I've got 4 or 5 more examples of this right now, so we can kind of get more comfortable with it. And we're gonna, if you feel like at the end of this lesson you don't quite understand that part of it, don't worry, because we're gonna be doing this in probably every lesson from here on out. Let's say we have ab squared raised to the 3rd power all over ab squared. Well, that if I simplify the top here, I've got this quantity raised to the 3rd power, so the 3 gets distributed in. So I've got a to the 3rd, because that goes into the a, and then I've got b squared raised to the 3rd power. I'm going to skip one little step here and just write b to the 6, because 2 times 3 is 6. And on the bottom, I'm just going to have a squared times b squared, because the 2 goes into either one. Now here's where it becomes interesting. I've got a third b to the 6 over a squared b squared. So I've got a's common to the top and bottom and b's common to the top and bottom. So 3 minus 2, okay, is 1, so it's just going to be a to the 1, which is a, b, and then 6 minus 2 is 4, so b to the 4. So you just look at the bases that are the same, you take the exponents and you subtract them, and that's how you get your number. Okay? What if we have 20 times r to the 4th, s to the 3rd, raised to the 4th, over 6 r s to the 3rd, raised to the 3rd. Okay? So then what we're going to do first is we're going to take care of our numbers. Remember how we simplify fractions. I can divide the top and the bottom by any number I want as long as it's the same number. In this case, I'm going to pick 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I'm going to simplify that. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is take care of this fraction. I'm going to distribute this 4 in as an exponent. I'm going to get r to the 16, because 4 times 4 is 16, times s, 3 times 4 is 12. All I did was move the 4 in and I multiplied them, over r raised to the 3rd power, because the 3 goes in, and then s goes in, and the 3 goes in, and so 3 times 3 is 9, so I've got a 9th power there. Now again, I've got r's on the top, 16 r's in fact, and 3 r's on the bottom, and I've got 12 s's on the top and 9 s's on the bottom, so I can simplify this. I'm going to keep my 10/3 over here just like that, and I'm going to have r to the 13, because 16 minus 3 is 13, times s, and then 12 minus 9 is 3. So I just subtract them. And that is the answer to that. Okay. Moving right along. 2 more problems. We're done with this section. Let's say I've got 17 over 34, x to the 4th, y to the 3rd, all raised to the 8th power, over, parentheses, x to the 5th, y squared, all raised to the 4th power. First, I'm going to deal with my numbers. 17 goes into 34 2 times, so I can first of all write this as 1/2, because 17 divided by 17 is 1, and 34 divided by 17 is 2. Now I'm going to deal with these things here. I'm going to distribute this 8 in, because I've got to deal with the parentheses first. Distribute this 8 in. That gives me x, 8 times 4 is 32, times y, 8 times 3 is 24, divided by x, 5 times 4 is 20, times y, 2 times 4 is 8. Okay? So far so good. Okay? Now notice I've got 32 x's on the top and 20 x's on the bottom. I've got 24 y's on the top and 8 y's on the bottom. So I'm going to just go ahead and carry my 1/2, okay, and that's going to be x, and I've got 12 more, x to the 12, y to the 16, okay, because I've got 5 times 4 is x to the 20, and then 2 times 4 is y to the 8th, and then 32 minus 20 is 12, and then 24 minus 8 is 16, so that's going to be the answer. So all you do is you use your distributive thing as you need to, and then when you get it in fractional form like that, you can just take your common terms and start subtracting. All right. Not too bad. Last problem in this section, let's make it a good one. Let's say I have parentheses, y to the 3rd times y over 2 times y squared, parentheses, all raised to the 3rd power. Now remember back, when I have a fraction in here, I need to raise the top by the same power as the bottom. So we're going to take this real slow, step by step. I've got y to the 3rd times y, and I'm going to raise that to the 3rd power on the top. And then I've got 2y times y squared, and I'm going to raise that to the 3rd power on the bottom. Now notice, I could distribute this 3 in, just like I did before, and this 3 in just like I did before, but notice that because I have y to the 3rd there and y there, and I have the same base, I can simplify the inside before proceeding by just adding the exponents. So on the top I'm going to have y to the 4th, because 3 times 1 is 4, and again that's going to be raised to the 3rd power. On the bottom I'm going to have 2 raised to the 3rd power. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Just scratch that. On the bottom, I'm going to have 2y to the 3rd raised to the 3rd for the same reason. All I did on the bottom was I carried the 2 and then I simplified these y's. 2 plus 1 is 3, and I raised it to the 3rd power because you got to keep that. Now let's proceed. Y to the 4th raised to the 3rd power is y to the 12th, because 3 times 4 is 12. And then on the bottom, this 3 needs to be distributed in, because there's 2 things in here being multiplied together. So I've got 2 raised to the 3rd power, and I've got y to the 9th, because 3 times 3 is 9. Okay. Now, for the y's, I've got 12 y's on the top, and I've got 9 y's on the bottom. 12 minus 9 is 3, so I've got y to the 3rd power over, don't forget about your 2 to the 3rd, and if you multiply that out, that's 8, because 2 times 2 times 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, so I got 8. And that's the answer right here. So in this lesson we have learned a lot of different things, it's all been about exponents and how to simplify them. And so before we leave the lesson, I just want to write a few things down. I didn't want to write this at the beginning because it can kind of scare you off, but I want to have it all on one slide so you can kind of write it down and study it. If you have x raised to the mth power times x to the nth power, that's simply equal to x to the m plus n. Okay, and that's kind of like x squared times x is x to the 3rd. All this is saying is I've got 2 powers of x, 2 and 1, and I can add them and get the answer. Okay, so that's how you do that. If I have something like x to the m raised to the nth power, that's the same thing as saying x to the m times n. And that one is kind of like x to the 3rd raised to the 2nd power, which is 2 times 3 is x to the 6th, the same thing we were doing earlier. Okay? Next, if I have something like